No, this is the football stadium. And this is where we're going to be in those seats right over there facing it. Oh, because yesterday we were set up down.
Yeah, I know how to play
Okay, it is May 31st, graduation day at West Point for the class of 2008. The rest of the cadets, I guess, are filing in up here. And we'll be sitting on the top of the stadium looking down. Parents, friends, relatives, etc. will be here, general public. And the cadets who are graduating will be sitting in these seats. So here is a view from Stony Lonesome. Let me get myself situated in the stadium. Okay, here's the back Michie Stadium from the roadside. Long lines of people trying to get in. And of course, we're right near the reservoir. So, what's interesting about this is that all cadets will attend 4 different graduation ceremonies before their turn comes. And so, parents are welcome to attend, get an idea of what it's going to be like.
I'm amazed how many people they get to show up.
Okay, and you, Woods? First name?
Larry.
Hi, Larry.
I wrote it on there.
Larry and Claudia?
Yep.
Excellent. And your cadet's name is?
Jennifer.
Jennifer. Okay, well, we'll give her special treatment here, guys.
You don't have to.
And here we go.
All right.
Congratulations. That is terrific.
You have a terrific day. Here's your...
Look how nice this is. Anticipation. Let's just hope that weather behaves itself.
Oh, it will.
And waits until this afternoon.
Well, this afternoon it'll be too late for the weather to hurt anything.
Exactly. Ah, my hand is shaking. I gotta be careful.
And the Secretary of the Army comes forward to deliver his speech, and again as he returns to his seat. Following his address, the Secretary of the Army will present diplomas to the honor graduates, the class valedictorian, the cadet first captain and brigade commander, the class president, and the Army Athletic Association trophy winners. The remaining graduates will receive their diplomas alphabetically by company. Cadets in the 1st and 2nd regiments are seated on the east side of the stadium. The Commandant of Cadets and the Dean of the Academic Board will present diplomas on the east side of the speaker's platform. Cadets in the 3rd and 4th regiments are going to be seated on the west side of the platform. The Superintendent will present diplomas on the west side as well. During this ceremony, I'll ask you to rise for the singing of the corps, the singing of the alma mater, the administration of the oath of office to the graduating class, and the benediction. At the conclusion of today's ceremony, the class of 2008 will participate in the time-honored tradition of the cadet hat toss. Minimum requirements for children who also wish to participate in the hat toss are: they must be 6 to 10 years old, 3.5 to 4.5 feet tall, and accompanied by a parent or guardian at least 18 years old. The child must be accompanied from the initial screening point to the completion of the hat toss. Once the distribution of diplomas to the graduating class begins, those wishing to participate in the hat toss may move to the screening point at Gate 3, which is at the other end of the stadium on the east side. All participants must enter the screening point at Gate 3 to participate in the hat toss.
Try to be steady here. I'm going to hold it by hand. Excuse me, guys. Murphy's Law just took into place. Lady with a huge hat got in front of me. I have such a beautiful shot of the cadets coming in too. Then, you know what? Thank you. Man, you're the best. Give me your email. Let me know when your son or daughter is arriving. I just hate.
Can you get off the seat? Sorry.
Now, where's your cadet? separated half the class because 3rd and 4th Regiment came in over here, while 1st and 2nd Regiment came in from the gate over there.
Superintendent bars to the members of the class of 2008 as they take their place in the long gray line. The class of 1958, having just celebrated their 50th class reunion here at West Point, has developed a special bonding relationship with the class of 2008 since the summer of 2004. The class of 1958 participated in the Fleet March Back, Acceptance Parade, almost every key event during the past 4 years, and the graduation banquet. This West Point tradition continues today when the class of 1958 presents a set of second lieutenant bars engraved 5808 to each graduate. The 4 representatives of the class of 1958 presenting the bars today all have distinguished records of service to the armed forces and the nation during times of war and peace. They are seated along the wall on the west side of the stadium. Please let me introduce them to you. General Michael J. Dugan, United States Air Force retired, former Chief of Staff, United States Air Force.
Over here somewhere.
General Crosby E. Saint, United States Army retired, former Commander-in-Chief, United States Army Europe. Major General Jack O. Bradshaw, United States Army retired, President of the class of 1958. Lieutenant Colonel Thomas D. Morgan, United States Army retired, President, West Point Society of Washington and Puget Sound. Gentlemen, we welcome you to this graduation ceremony. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you here with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, and members of the class of 2008, just as the long gray line represents the connection of all cadets throughout the Academy history, today's faculty processional recognizes the dedication and academic excellence of all U.S. Military Academy faculty, both past and present. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the faculty of the United States Military Academy.
Here they come. some good pictures.
Ladies and gentlemen, now approaching the dais are our distinguished guests, as well as the Commandant of Cadets, the Dean of the Academic Board, members of the Academic Board, and other senior Academy leaders.
Sorry.
Teresa! Way to go, James! John!
Tobin?
Teresa! James Finkler! Look forward back! Throw your hat now. Stand up, round, and smile. Hurry up.
Get it?
Sound attention.
Oh, sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Superintendent of the United States Military Academy, Lieutenant General Buster Hagenbeck. Ladies and gentlemen, the Secretary of the Army, the Honorable Pete Geren.
Take seats.
Let us pray. Gracious God, your mercies are new every day, and your faithfulness endures to all generations. You have been faithful to the class of 2008, and we give you thanks this day for the overwhelming feelings of pride and joy that fill our hearts as we gather to celebrate their graduation. These young men and women answered the call to serve our nation in a time of war, knowing full well that when this day came, they would soon be leading America's sons and daughters in combat. Grant them courage to face the future with confidence, knowing that you will never leave them or forsake them, wherever they may go from here. Grant your protection to them and to the soldiers they will lead in the days ahead. Grant wisdom and courage to our President and to the civilian and military leaders of our armed forces as they shoulder the tremendous responsibilities of their office in this time of unprecedented danger and uncertainty. Bless our nation and all who serve in the uniforms of our armed services as we seek to fulfill your purpose through us in this world. Keep us ever faithful to your call in our lives and always grateful for the privilege to serve you and our great nation. We ask these things in the name of him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we can ask or even imagine. Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen,
Commissioning of the class of 2008. Let me take a moment to acknowledge those who are with us on the dais. First, of course, is our speaker, the Secretary of the Army, the Honorable Pete Geren. We're honored and grateful, sir, that you made the time to be with us here today for this momentous occasion. Next is Congressman Pete Sessions, United States Representative from the 32nd District of Texas. Congressman Jeff Fortenberry, United States Congressman from the 1st District, Nebraska. Our former Congressman and longtime friend of the Academy, the Honorable Ben Gilman of New York. Brigadier General Mike Lennington, Commandant of the Corps Cadets. Brigadier General Pat Finnegan, Dean of the Academic Board. I'll be very brief this morning. I know that all these young men and women want to get out of that cadet gray and into Army green and sworn in as the Army's newest batch of second lieutenants. Perhaps more significantly, though, they can break out their old grad t-shirts in about an hour or two and tell the class of 2009 how easy they have it. Ladies and gentlemen, before us sits the class of 2008, leaders of character, well prepared to serve as commissioned officers in our great Army. Let me take a moment to address the parents, relatives, and the loved ones of these cadets. Are these difficult times for our nation? Unequivocally, the answer is yes. But it's in hard times such as these that our nation most needs leaders to guide us through. So I thank you for trusting us with your most cherished possession. We don't take that responsibility lightly. In turn, we are entrusting them with America's sons and daughters, and they have the opportunity to serve something bigger than themselves, and that's priceless. Very few get that opportunity in their lifetimes. To the class of 2008, first and foremost, we're very proud of all of you. Over the past 47 months, you've conquered every challenge put in your way. You've mastered intellectual, physical, military, and ethical standards necessary to arrive at this day. This, however, is truly just the beginning of your journey. A journey that will witness good days and bad days, joy and sorrow, and accomplishments and setbacks. For you're entering, arguably, the most turbulent times in our nation's history, and this country will ask a lot of you. No mission too great. It's an apt class motto, as you'll be faced with a myriad of tasks early on. Economic, politics, cultural awareness, and negotiations are just a sampling of the expertise that you will need to exhibit in addition to your basic branches. You're ready. Trust me, you're ready. You arrived here on our day 4 years ago with a desire to serve, and you've been preparing every day since then. And you won't be alone in your journey. You'll be guided on your path by phenomenal soldiers, NCOs, peers, and superiors. In your platoons, you'll have soldiers that signed up to serve, and they signed up to serve with you. Honor that and earn their commitment. One final thought I will leave with you is not to be in a hurry in pursuing your career. Relish your time as a platoon leader. It's where you'll learn how to be a leader, and it's where you'll have your greatest memories, your most demanding challenges, and most rewarding accomplishments. Ultimately, it's where you learn how to soldier. Again, we're proud of you, and we welcome you into the long gray line. At this time, I would ask that you cadets look into the stands one more time. You're surrounded by your family, your friends, coaches, all of these people have shared your triumphs and this journey with you. So why don't all of you join in a round of applause for their support. Now it's my great honor to introduce the Secretary of the Army, the Honorable Pete Geren. He's had a distinguished career in government service, serving as a congressman for 4 terms, Special Assistant to the Secretary of Defense, Acting Secretary of the Air Force, Under Secretary of the Army, and his current position as the Secretary of the Army. As such, he is responsible for all matters relating to the United States Army, to include manpower, installations, environmental issues, weapon systems, equipment acquisition, and budget management. Mr. Secretary, you can be proud of these outstanding young men and women. They've chosen to serve, and they've chosen to lead. Distinguished guests, members of the class of 2008, family and friends of the United States Military Academy, I'm privileged to introduce our nation's Secretary of the Army, the Honorable Pete Geren.
Thank you very much. Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? Then I said, here am I, send me. Today we gather to recognize the cadets of the class of 2008. Men and women who in the spring of 2004 answered the call of our nation, a nation at war. They answered, here am I, send me. This afternoon, you'll be commissioned as second lieutenants. And over the next year, our Army will send you around our nation and around the world to one of 80 countries where American soldiers are serving the cause of freedom. General Hagenbeck, General Finnegan, General Lennington, Congressman Sessions of Fortenberry and Gilman, moms, dads, grandparents, brothers and sisters, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the class of 2008, what a profound honor it is to share this occasion with you. And humbling, as a civilian standing in the presence of those who have answered our nation's call. I came to work for the Department of Defense in early fall 2001, and I was at the Pentagon when the terrorists struck, killed 184 people, including 69 soldiers and Army civilians. That day I watched soldiers go to the sound of the explosion, and for the past 6.5 years I've watched soldiers go off to war and watch their families stand with them. I have been inspired by the service of our soldiers and humbled by the sacrifice of their families. From the bottom of my heart, cadets, family members, thank you for your service. Thank you for your sacrifice. I stand before you as a grateful citizen representing a grateful nation. General Hagenbeck, faculty and staff, thank you for the great work you do for our cadets, for our Army, and for our nation. I know you look across this assembly of graduates with a great sense of pride and accomplishment. Congratulations to each of you. Now let me begin with a little official business, meaningless to most, but most important to a few. By the authority conferred on me by the Secretary of Defense, I grant amnesty to all cadets whose antics led to minor conduct offenses. He or she ever gets caught. This includes the cadet who took a detour in his land navigation course in the summer of '05 and returned with buffalo wings for his buddies. With a response like that, a wiser man than I would say, congratulations, thank you, and sit down. But you won't be so lucky. 2008, what a class. Academic and athletic excellence, great leaders, a Rhodes Scholar, Fulbright, Truman, and Marshall Scholars, All-Americans, athletic and academic, national championship in boxing, just to mention a few of the highlights. Today I'll be speaking mostly to the cadets, but before I do, I want to address the parents and family members who are with us today. Parents, thank you for molding your sons and daughters into men and women of courage, character, and accomplishment. And thank you for entrusting them to us. As we honor them, we honor you. And to the sweethearts who will become Army husbands and wives over the coming days, some this very afternoon at the cadet chapels here at West Point, we welcome you into the Army family and thank you for your partnership and service to our nation. Parents, as you look across the sea of white and gray uniforms and find your child, you must be filled with an extraordinary sense of pride. But I know, too, the concern that you also must carry in your heart behind your pride. For we are a nation at war, and your sons and daughters chose to be soldiers. Over the weekends of this spring, hundreds of thousands of parents across America gather as we do today to celebrate the graduation of their children, celebrating with none of the ambivalence that may tug at your heart this morning, and many unmindful of the debt they will owe to your children. So much owed by so many to so few. Your sons and daughters are among our nation's very best. They could have gone anywhere to college and had their choice of careers. Today they could be accepting a diploma and a lucrative job offer instead of a commission in the United States Army. But they chose the path of duty, honor, and country. The service our nation is asking of your sons and daughters is important work for our country, for the free world, for liberty-loving people everywhere. It will change our nation, and it will change our world for the better. And your sons and daughters are ready. They are well prepared for the task ahead of them. When I reflected on these cadets and West Points and what is at stake in this war, my mind turned to Thomas Jefferson. Presidents Washington, Adams, and Jefferson all understood the need for a military academy. Jefferson acted on the need and established West Point. We needed strong and capable leaders for our Army in 1802, but even more so today. We need men and women of immense talent and strong character. Men and women like your sons and daughters. And perhaps as no other founding father, Thomas Jefferson would understand the threat we face today. Tyranny in the name of religion. Jefferson knew history, and he understood human nature. He devoted much of his life, in much of his work, to the advancement of individual liberty and religious freedom that could spare our republic the religious strife that over the centuries had soaked the soil of much of the world with blood. The blood of those who shared much, shared history, shared tradition, and even family, and differed only in their religious beliefs. Jefferson considered his contributions to the cause of religious freedom among his greatest accomplishments. He wrote the epitaph for his gravestone, dictated that it would say the following and not a word more. Here was buried Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration of Independence, of the Statute of Virginia for Religious Freedom, and father of the University of Virginia. The Declaration of Independence and the University of Virginia need no explanation. The Statute of Religious Freedom is known to few, but it speaks powerfully to us today. Let me read from it. No man shall be compelled to support any religious worship, place, or ministry whatsoever, nor shall be molested, nor burdened, nor shall suffer on account of his religious beliefs. All men shall be free to profess their opinions in the matter of religion. Jefferson's ideal of religious freedom and individual liberty stands in stark contrast to the malignant vision of religious oppression and the murderous practices of the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. To the hatred that murdered 3,000 people on 9/11 and continues its butchery today. 200 years after Thomas Jefferson penned these words, your sons and daughters are fighting to protect our citizens and people around the world from zealots who would restrain, molest, burden, and cause to suffer those who do not share their religious beliefs. Deny us, whom they call infidels, our unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Your sons and daughters, our soldiers, stand against a threat to liberty and life that is as old as civilization, in a cause that shaped the foundation of our nation, and against an enemy that seeks to take us back to the future and establish an old world order of oppression and darkness. Thomas Jefferson would not be surprised. Mark Twain told us that history does not repeat itself, but that it does rhyme. And for American soldiers, the mission and the threat are not abstract. They know why they're fighting. An Army captain recently described his service in simple terms. Just as your grandparents joined the Army to ensure that our land would never suffer another Pearl Harbor, I joined to ensure that we never suffer another 9/11. And our mission goes beyond the security of our own people. The United States always has stood as a beacon of hope for those yearning to be free. And over the past 6 years, our military has liberated 50 million people in Iraq and Afghanistan from brutal dictatorships and awakened hope in a region that has known little but despair and oppression. Our Secretary of Defense reminded us recently, our responsibilities to the world, to freedom, to liberty, to the oppressed everywhere, are not a burden on the people or the soul of this nation. Rather, they are a blessing. And as we work to make the world safer for democracy and more dangerous for terrorists, we are making the world safer for Americans. Your sons and daughters are well prepared for the challenges ahead of them. Most importantly, they are men and women of character, They came that way to West Point. Our nation has you to thank for that. Character, as Joshua Chamberlain told us, is formed in the silent and peaceful years by the mother's knee and the father's side. No matter how old your son or daughter is, he or she is forever your child. And I know when you look at him or her, your mind recalls a scrapbook of memories, a kaleidoscope of life experiences from the cradle to this graduation day. You remember their first steps, their curiosity, their mischief, their successes. You remember their strengths and their frailties. But West Point knows your sons and daughters now very well. For the last 4 years, the United States Military Academy has taken them on a journey through the crucible of the most demanding academic, physical, and military curriculum in the world. Your sons and daughters have met the highest standards of learning, living, and performance. As they leave West Point today, know that they are well prepared to meet the challenges of their future missions and commands. Today they join the best led, best trained, and best equipped Army on the face of the earth. And they are ready to be leaders in that extraordinary Army. For these remarkable men and women, the class of 2008, no mission too great is more than a motto. And now I will speak to them, the cadets of the class of 2008. You will extend the long gray line another generation into our nation's future. A long gray line that stretches back to 1802, to those cadets of an earlier day, sinewy threads that are woven throughout the rich tapestry of our Republic's history, giving it strength, character, and resilience in times of peace and in times of war. As a fledgling democracy sought to explore, survey, and subdue a vast continent, West Pointers led the way. West Pointers harnessed the awesome power and bounty of our continent. They tamed rivers with dams and levees, built our nation's roads, harbors, bridges, and railroads. From the Atlantic to the Pacific, from the Erie Canal to the Panama Canal, you see the great peacetime handiwork of West Point graduates. Goethals, Bonneville, Young, just to name a few. Some famous, some forgotten. The long gray line has shaped the destiny of America. In time of war, West Point graduates have filled our history books and our national consciousness. As we survey the halls, grounds, monuments, and statues around us, we cannot escape their history or their gaze. Much of the history you studied here was made by those you studied here. Grant, Lee, Eisenhower, Patton, MacArthur, today Petraeus, Odierno, Cody, Austin, Rodriguez. The honor roll will go on forever, and today you join their ranks. Now, no graduation speech would be complete if I did not attempt to leave a few lessons behind. You enter our Army at a dynamic period in the history of our service, in the history of warfare. Policy, doctrine, training, and equipping are adapting rapidly to the constantly changing threat. An environment where our soldiers must hold and build as well as they clear. You've learned how to eat soup with a knife and other important lessons about leadership in the 21st century Army. For the lessons I want to leave with you, I will borrow heavily from a man who has spoken here before. For I could not improve on his prose, and I share his vision for your service. He summed up succinctly a day in the life of an American soldier in Iraq or Afghanistan today. He told your predecessors, your military responsibilities will require a versatility and an adaptability never before required in either war or peace. It will involve the command of more traditional forces, but in less traditional roles, risking their lives not as combatants, but as instructors or advisors. This is another type of war by guerrillas, subversives, insurgents, and assassins. War by ambush instead of combat, seeking victory by eroding and exhausting us rather than engaging us. The non-military problems which you face will be most demanding, diplomatic, political, and economic. You will serve as advisors to foreign governments. You'll need to understand the foreign policy of the United States and the foreign policies of countries that 20 years ago were the most distant names to us. You will need to give orders in different tongues. You'll be involved in economic judgments that most economists would be hesitant to make. You will need to understand the importance of military power and the limits of military power. And perhaps most importantly, he told your predecessors, your posture and your performance will provide the local population with the only evidence of what our country is really like. And in closing, he told your predecessors, you have one satisfaction, however difficult your days may be, when you are asked by the President of the United States or any other American what you're doing for our country. No man's answers will be clearer than your own. History does rhyme. These words were spoken 46 years ago, right here, by President John Kennedy, speaking to the graduating class of 1962. Let me add a duty or two to President Kennedy's list. Creighton Abrams, class of 1936, told us that people are not in the Army, people are the Army. And your Army is different today than any Army in our history or any Army so long in war. It's an all-volunteer force, and over half are married, with over 700,000 children in Army families. Volunteer soldiers, volunteer families. The all-volunteer force is a national treasure, but it can be squandered. To sustain our Army, we must provide Army families with a quality of life equal to the quality of their service. As Army leaders, you must take care of Army families. Must make Army families a priority of your service. And one more, most importantly. In a few moments, you will take the oath of a second lieutenant. Regardless of how long you wear the uniform, one thing will never change. You're a leader, and the well-being of soldiers will be in your hands. You'll be judged by how you discharge that duty. For if you strip away everything else about the Army, at its core, that's what the Army is all about. Soldiers taking care of soldiers. In the barracks, on the battlefield, in the hospital. That's what soldiers do. And you should count your career a success if you never earn more than the single gold bar you will get this afternoon. If one of your soldiers writes a letter about you like the one I'm about to read from a soldier somewhere in Europe in 1945. Dear Mrs. Troby, the gents I speak of down here are usually known but to a few, and they ask no publicity. They are some of the officers and NCOs who live down there in hell, just a few miles from here, and they stay there days, weeks, and months. They're just a few. They teach men, they feed them, they protect them, they lead them. These men are loved with a kind of love that exists no place but on the battlefield, and it's never talked about. They go for days without sleep, give away their clothes, go without food. They keep going when they're sick, perform miraculous feats when they're wounded, and they take the suicidal details rather than ask someone else to do it. They're never afraid, they're never cold, they never complain. They spend all of their days trying to think of ways to help their men and to save them. I don't know if they're happy, but if it isn't selflessness, I never hope to see it. Surely they must be God's people. I'm sure they swore and drank and did a lot of other things. But I'm sure God got them when they went away. Signed, Whitney. Soldiers take care of soldiers. We're here to celebrate with the class of 2008, but it's fitting that we stop and remember the sacrifices of those who have gone before. Over the past year since you gathered here last May, 11 West Point graduates have given their lives for our country. There's always a personal cost in your profession of arms. It is your willingness to bear that cost that ennobles you, your calling, in this gathering. Earlier this year, Captain Andrew Pearson, class of 2001, serving in Baghdad, joined the ranks of the fallen. Captain Pearson began his career as an enlisted man before entering West Point. In his yearbook, he chose this quote from President Kennedy to accompany his photo. In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from the responsibility. I welcome it. Captain Pearson's ashes now rest in Arlington Cemetery. His father summed up Captain Pearson's life and legacy. He believed in what he was doing, and he gave his all for America. so moving in their simple dignity. These words are an inspiration for the living, as well as an epitaph for the fallen. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. When I went to work for the Secretary of Defense now nearly 7 years ago, my office looked to the northeast across the Potomac River, to the Capitol, to the Mall. In the summer months, the sun comes up directly behind the Jefferson Memorial. And just as the sun edges past the memorial into the morning sky, for the briefest moment, a sliver of golden light crowns the graceful dome. There were days when the early sun would burn through the morning clouds and wash the Capitol and the Washington Monument in shades of pink, purple, and gold. You could not look away until the color had drained from the sky. To the west, beyond my view, stands the Lincoln Memorial, serving as a bookend for the Mall, just up from the Memorial Bridge that leaves Arlington Cemetery. For me, at that time, and for most Americans, I suppose, the landmarks that frame our Mall tell the story of the foundation of our nation. But when I came to the Army in 2006, my view changed. Out my window, I now face Arlington Cemetery and the waves of chalk-white headstones that line the rolling hills and mark the generations of Americans who have served our nation in peace and war. Out my window every day, horse-drawn and flag-draped caissons carry our nation's heroes to their final resting place. The Custis Lee Mansion, home of Robert E. Lee, class of 1829, stands a commanding presence on that ridgeline. It was built with slave labor by Martha Washington's grandson and serves as a constant reminder of the contradictions and cross-currents that tormented our young republic, and of the strife that gave birth to Arlington Cemetery and filled the first in so many of its graves. A short distance to the south along the ridge, soldiers guard the Tomb of the Unknowns every single day and around the clock. Arlington is a place where the dead find their final resting place, but where the animating spirit of America lives. Historian Vic Atkinson captured the spirit of Arlington. It is, he told us, a shrine to valor and sacrifice, to service and fidelity. Those interred here tell a story not just of the Republic in war and in peace, but also of a transcendent ideal, conceived in liberty and reconsecrated with every new grave dug, every benediction murmured, every commitment into the hallowed ground. A transcendent ideal. Since coming to the Army, it has dawned on me that it is Arlington, not the Mall's monuments and memorials, that tells the story of our nation. Were it not for that transcendent ideal that has inspired the American soldier on many a weary march from dripping dusk to drizzling dawn, there would be no monuments, no Capitol, and no Mall. Today we gather to honor young men and women who in a moment will swear an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, not defend our shores, not defend our people, but defend our Constitution, defend a transcendent ideal against all enemies, from dripping dusk to drizzling dawn. A transcendent ideal, a revolutionary ideal that calls out to people the world over who yearn to be free. A transcendent ideal that led these men and women of the class of 2008 to choose to be soldiers, American soldiers, with America at war. Class of 2008, take pride in your record here at West Point. Take great heart in your bright future, and take confident and compassionate hold of the responsibility that awaits in your service to soldiers, their families, and to our nation. Our nation needs you. We salute you and your families in your collective courage and commitment, and we wish you Godspeed in your journey for duty, honor, and country. Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And you said, here am I, send me. God bless you, and thank you.
We'd like to thank you for coming out this morning and sharing the inspirational and moving words with our family, friends. The inscription on the cadet saber reads, the Honorable Pete Geren, Secretary of the Army, graduation speaker, class of 2008, United States Corps of Cadets, 31 May 2008. Thanks.